Welcome everybody to another Creative Zone webinar. We're excited to share these very cool stories that we have in front of us. Steve Ashby and Nick Moore. Just a small introduction. Steve Ashby is the founder of Businessmentals here in Dubai, and Nick Moore is the co-founder and head of planning for Up Agency. Is it Up Agency or UP Agency?
Yeah, up for uplifting, joyful, spontaneous, sustainable, and ethical.
Excellent, excellent. So, dear Steve and Nick, thank you so much for joining us, and thanks to all the attendees for being there. We have about 80 people attending. So let's take it away. This webinar is from employee to entrepreneur. We have a lot of people in our our client base. A lot of people watching this webinar are Creative Zone clients, people that have come to us and they recently started their journey from maybe employee, or they started recently their new company. So take us away, Nick and Steve. What is this journey of going from an employee to an entrepreneur?
Okay, well, thanks very much, Lorenzo. And as always, great to be with Creative Zone, who I've been with now for, I think, 5 years. So what we're going to be talking about is the employee to entrepreneur journey, which is how to start and run a profitable business. So as you said, I've been here for 35 years working in senior corporate roles and in business ownership. And so what I wanted to do quickly was just to give people an idea of what we're going to be covering. So first, we're going to give a bit of a quick background about who we are, just a little bit more detail. And then perhaps why you'd want to listen to our methods for starting a business the right way so it's profitable. And then what I thought we would do was talk about the three main problems that I see and have seen over the years a lot of people struggling with when it comes to successfully setting up a business. And then we'll talk about what I call the three pillars of success, which is a strong product, a strong marketing structure, and a strong business structure, and how you build them. Because that'll sustain just about any kind of business, because I know there's a lot of people with very different kinds of businesses that they're looking to set up. The beauty of these three pillars are the fact that they are universal, really, and you need them all. So even if you're doing a pet grooming business or a management consulting business, which sometimes I feel is almost the same, you still need those three pillars. So what we'll do is we'll go through those, and then in about half an hour or so, we'll go into a bit more detail about what a program is that we're going to be talking about, which is an 8-week coaching program called Employee to Entrepreneur, what it covers, and why we've spaced it out the way that we have. Because there is actually a lot to learn when you're starting a successful business. And then right at the end of this webinar, we're going to give people the opportunity to decide whether or not they'd like to join the entrepreneur program. And we're giving them a massive discount for basically to say thanks to Creative Zone for putting this on. So we'll go through those sort of details a little later on. So Lorenzo, do you want to tell us just a little bit about yourself and how you've ended up in the wonderful Creative Zone?
Well, I've been in Dubai for about 12, 13 years. I'm the CEO of Creative Zone for the last 8 months. The company was established 10 years ago by Steve Main and Mahesh Dalamal. It's one of the biggest company set up businesses in the UAE. Many of the people attending are clients of ours, and it's just so interesting to be part of an industry and of a company where we help and empower individuals to set up their company. So it's really been a fun journey this far, and it's a real pleasure to be at this role.
Oh, great. There's a lot of similarity, I think, between what we're doing, which is great. This is a great community to be in. Nick, do you want to give us a little bit about you?
Sure. Well, yeah, the Up Agency has been in business about 3 years, and we do what we call full service marketing. We've made a number of challenging rookie errors along the way that everyone can learn from. We're experts in our field, globally award-winning for creativity and strategy, and we still made some of these errors. So like you were saying when we've been chatting offline, Steve, these are not things that people should be ashamed to wave their hand and say. These are things that actually can happen to the most talented of people and people experts within their field.
Yeah.
If you know, obviously, of Simon Sinek, he's talking about your why. What's your why? Have you found your purpose? Because people like to connect with brands that have purpose and mirror their values. So we focus on helping companies championing the good that they do for people and the planet, to be part of something bigger, to do their part, and to benefit from all the good that they do in the world. And there's plenty of room for brands, companies within all sorts of sectors to differentiate themselves and to become focused on the good that they do. And it's taken us a while to find that positioning, to move from being a standard marketing agency to being something that's really focused on being, like we were saying earlier, joyful, sustainable and ethical. And that's taken time, and it takes many entrepreneurs time to find their niche. And that's why I wanted to join today, to help people on that same journey.
Great. Okay. It's quite interesting, the change. I've heard the word being used about integrity marketing, integrity branding. Now with people are wanting to buy from companies that are demonstrating high levels of integrity to their employees, as well as to their clients. Okay, a little bit about me. I've been in corporate life and working for myself for more years than I can remember, actually, but 35 odd years working in corporate roles in various countries around the world. And I have some businesses here, one of which is the #1 in the region in its specialist service. And I've also got a consulting business and this coaching course business. And I've certainly, like you were saying, Nick, I think I've learnt the hard way. So it's been a bit tough at times, but we've gained a lot of experience and learned a lot of things along the way. And that's basically what we're going to be talking about. So our goal is not to impress you with how smart we are. It's actually to enable you to learn from our mistakes. And Lorenzo's keeping carefully silent about his, but Nick and I have made a fair few. But really the point of tonight, I think, for the people who have joined, the most important thing to decide right up front is what's on the screen there. Should I start a business or not? Okay, because it is it's a pretty big decision. It's not one of those things, well, we'll give it a go for 3 months and then we'll see how it goes. If you're going to do this, you've really got to go into it, boots and all. Now, I'm pretty sure that a lot of the people who are listening to us at the moment are giving this a lot of thought at the moment, and they are also, like Nick was saying, they've got a particular skill that they know that they could do something with. But, there's always the kind of things that stop people from moving ahead under those circumstances. And these are the 3 reasons that I've discovered over many, many years as to why people don't actually take what they're good at and do something with it. In the first instance, they kind of don't have confidence that they're good enough, that they're better than other people around. So they lack a little bit of self-confidence, and so they never actually step out and find out that they are actually a lot better than they thought they were, relatively. One of the things that we look at is that, generally speaking, your clients frequently will have less knowledge about your particular skill than you do. That's how commerce works. You get people who are expert at things. So if you consider that your clients are probably, a 3, if you're a 7, then, you're going to be able to work with those clients and give them some good quality advice and great service. Constantly working on your own skills so that you're always trying to become a 10. But Nick, you were saying that you don't actually have to be a 10 to start out with. And I just thought you made a really good point about that. So do you just want to go through that?
Yeah, well, you consider yourself, whether you consider yourself an expert or not in your field, if you spent some time doing it, if you spent over, say, 3 or 4 years doing so, you've already got the 10,000 hours that make you an expert. So a lot of management studies have proven that if you've got 10K hours in your speciality, then you have a level of expertise. And then it's just the practice, repeating and embedding of the good behaviors that you've learned that makes you a better professional over time. So I think that there's, you know, you don't need to get hung up on thinking you need to do a whole solution for your clients if there's areas that are outside your very core expertise. If you focus on what you do well, you can differentiate. And that's what clients are really buying. Clients respond to having a very clear focus. And a lot of the people you're competing against are in the 62% of businesses who never make a profit. That's often because they're trying to appeal to everyone and do everything. And as a result, they appeal to no one because they're not specialists enough.
Yeah.
The
other thing the other reason that I've discovered that people find difficult to start is they don't have a roadmap to follow. And, you know, one of the things that you and I both learned in corporate life is you tend to have fairly good roadmaps in corporate because, you know, you've got people who are setting out business processes and so on, and you know exactly what you're supposed to do. But when you're setting up your own business, it's a little bit different. You don't actually have a roadmap. And the third reason is that even if people do like, you know, what they've got to offer and they do want to go and set up a business, often they don't know how to develop it quickly and scale. So they're worried they're just going to be stuck at a level and, you know, they're never going to be able to progress from there. So, you know, here's some of the facts that are around what we've just been talking about. 62% of businesses never make a profit. So, you know, that's a huge number. 82% of business owners fail in their first attempt. That's probably because they haven't talked to Nick and I. We could show them how to do it a bit better. And as I said, you know, your clients know less about your chosen subject than you, and achieving mastery is really important. As far as the roadmap is concerned, this course actually that we're talking about a little later on is a roadmap. It's a step-by-step guide. It's a blueprint for your success. And believe me, it'll save you thousands of dollars in trial and error as you're sort of poking around in the dark. And most importantly, and this is where I've spent most of my life working on things, is it'll cut your learning curve in half, which means that you're going to become profitable a lot faster. So there are really three pillars to success. The first one, as I said, is that you've got a strong product. So good that they can't ignore you. A wonderful quote by Steve Martin, the comedian. So your product or your service, that you work on it so that it's so good that people can't actually ignore you. You really are differentiating yourself. Now, another really interesting thing is it has to fill a need in the market. And 42% of businesses, I found this extraordinary, 42% of businesses fail because there's no demand for what they're offering, which clearly means that they didn't do any research to go and find out what people were actually wanting. Now, we do want to stress about research, so you'll hear quite a lot about that as we go along. So as far as building a strong product is concerned, practicing, becoming better and better at your delivery, which is what Nick was saying, constantly evaluating your progress like an athlete. Now, I'm old, but I cycle every day. But even though I have people going past me at great speed and I'll never be able to catch them up, I still measure my own time against my performance last week because I want to be as good as somebody my age can be at cycling. And it makes a really big difference when you keep evaluating how well you did today. Why were you down a little bit? Why were you up? Now, our competitive edge with our product is that we did listen to a lot of people when they were telling us about the difficulties that they have with defining their products and setting up a business. So we did actually do a lot of research. So we've looked at quite a number of people who are providing, you know, U-Butte, you know, make 7 figures in a year with no money and no hard work and, you know, 4-hour working week. Oh, it's all there, man. All you have to do is just click that button, hey, and give us, you know, $997. Not so much. So actually what needs to happen is you do need to do the research and you do need to make sure that your product is strong, viable, and, you know, people want it. So some of the research things that we do and that we teach in the course are things like SWOT analysis, which I know a lot of people will be familiar with. You can see it there. One that you may not be so familiar with is called RAID. And this is a really interesting one where you're looking at the risks, assessing the risks. What are the assumptions you're making about the market opportunity? What are the issues that are right in front of you, which are different from risks? Risks might happen. Issues have happened. They're right in front of you. And what are the dependencies? What do you have to hope is going to happen in order that you can move ahead? Because, you know, when you're doing this, it's actually quite critical to know exactly where you are at all times. And Lorenzo, when you came into your latest role, I guess the first thing that you would have done was a pretty deep analysis of exactly where the business was, because otherwise, how are you going to know how you're going to be able to impact it?
Yeah, definitely. I think the points that you're raising here are very valid, especially when it comes to starting a new business. I think I can't stress enough how important these elements are to analyze what are your risks, what assumptions are you making, what are you going to be dependent on, you know, analyze the different forces that you're competing against. It's crucial for any business. And you're rightly saying, I think many people get into business without fully understanding what is it that the full scope of things that they're getting into.
Yeah. Well, when you consider that 62% of them never make a profit, that's a bit of a giveaway, and 42% of them fail because nobody wants what they've got. Yeah, I think that anybody who starts a business without doing some good research is setting themselves up for failure. So that's why we want to make sure that people really do understand the importance of research. Now, the second pillar of the three is strong marketing. Now, I'm not just talking about, you know, being good on social media. I'm talking about the whole concept of marketing, understanding how the whole thing works, because there are a lot of moving parts. So one of the things that we recommend, even for small businesses, in fact, particularly for small business, is to have a cohesive marketing plan. So you can see where your social, where your with what you're doing on your website, with the blogs, the content marketing, etc., how all those things fit together. You cannot manage all of those things in your head. They are too dynamic. Here's an interesting fact. And the reason why I'm giving you facts is because I want to compare and contrast what happens out in the world of people starting up businesses and what we do. Because one of the things we do is we help you build a marketing plan. So wherever you see a big number like that, I'm going to be able to say to you, well, you know what? On our 8-week coaching program, we show you how to build a marketing plan. How can you run a business without a plan? It staggers me. Now, here's the really interesting reason why you should, because businesses with marketing plans actually average 3 times more revenue overall than businesses that don't. And that's because of the spend in the right place, the placement of whatever they're doing to attract their clients, and just generally being far more efficient. 61% of businesses, though, invest in social media marketing, but kind of like throwing mud at the wall, because only half of them have actually got a plan. Now, less than 17% of them invest in SEO. You don't have to be an SEO expert, but you need to understand that something like 85% of clients go and look at your website before they buy anything from you. You know, so if you don't understand how having a great website that's well ranked from an SEO perspective fits into your overall marketing strategy and structure, then you're missing things. That's why I'm saying there's a lot of things to take into consideration. And, you know, I knew nothing of this when I first started. And boy, it's been a long, hard road, but now I can finally see how everything kind of starts to fit together.
If I may say something here at this point,
Sure.
Steve, I see this to be a failure for many startups and entrepreneurs, which is this issue of exposing themselves, exposing their brand, showing the world what they can do. They lack a marketing plan. They don't know how to, you know, go out and create the business development that their business needs, and they have something great to offer. But nowadays, in this sort of overly crowded world of supply of anything, if you're not really good at showcasing who you are, what you do, I mean, you need to be on top of a roof and shouting it out as loud as you can to make a difference and stand out. So
exactly.
If I can add to that,
Sure.
The other element really here is really understanding your target consumer. So if you don't have that exact target consumer in mind, you don't know how to do your messaging, you don't know what to build your plan around. So you need to completely understand their needs. And in this current environment where COVID's hit, some of the assumptions you've made, maybe when you first looked at the market before COVID, could be completely different. Whole industries have changed. And there's many ways to look at market research, like you were saying earlier, Steve. There's demographics, looking at people's age and their income and location. There's psychographics. What are people thinking about when they want to use your product? There's firmographics or technographics. So if you're targeting B2B, people in jobs, have those job functions and industries completely changed? And there's many other ways that you can look and say, okay, what's happening to my consumer? Because that's the basis of the marketing plan that then tells you all of these marketing elements that you've got to put into practice.
Yeah, and here's the really interesting thing. The really interesting thing is that line at the bottom. 10% of small businesses use the build and they will come methodology of marketing themselves. You know, and that might be okay if you're selling apples down at the local stall in the Saturday morning market in the car park outside Tesco's. But, you know, if you're actually trying to be, you know, somebody who's running a management consulting business, or, you know, you're a graphic designer or a web designer, if you don't do marketing, it's like Lorenzo said, nobody will know you're there. So that's why marketing is really, really important. 50% of SMBs, this is another really interesting statistic, they spend less than 1,100 dirhams a month on online marketing. It's not going to go very far when you're trying to be ranked and rated and known. And here's another thing that, that I think is really telling for the people who are watching tonight. This is something you should really, really think about. 71% of SMBs, including your competitors, do their own marketing, even if they are actually people who run a dog grooming business. They do the marketing as well, or they run a management consulting business. They do the marketing as well, or they're a life coach. They do their own marketing. You know, horses for courses, it doesn't work. That's why it's really, really important. And I've learned this with bitter experience, but I can tell you, it's really important to have a strong marketing plan done by somebody who knows what it is that they're doing. Okay, because there is a massive amount of skill involved in putting marketing plans together. And you need to find somebody who isn't just a copywriter who can also do plans. You need to find somebody who has that 50,000 foot view of how all those pieces in marketing fit together. Okay, it needs to be based on research and analysis. The best marketers that I know are so numerate and so good when it comes to statistics and research and analysis. The last thing that they're good at doing actually is writing a powerful headline or something like that. They've got other people to do that. What they're looking at is how do we find the right people and how do we tailor exactly our message to make sure it hits home 100% of the time when we are not satisfied with anything less. So for my money, learn from bitter experience, all the people out there, surround yourself with experts, okay? Go find people in the marketing sphere who really know what they're talking about. They are worth their weight in gold, and not just because I think Nick's a nice bloke. It's really, really true. Because I tell you what, you pay peanuts in this area and you get the monkeys, and you're not going to join that group of 38% of businesses that consistently make a profit. You'll be in the 62% with everybody else.
Steve, let me remind now everybody at this stage that we welcome your questions. We have a Q&A section here on the Zoom call that you are allowed to include your questions. Please start putting your questions there. We're going to start reading them out as we go along in the different topics. If the question relates very much to what the topic is being talked about, it'll be better because we will be able to relate. But there's a good question out there so that we break things up a little bit. Steve, if you don't mind, I'll get this one and you guys can answer. But it says, I am an ex-corporate employee transitioning to being an entrepreneur. I have an idea. I've done research. I've talked to people to develop a minimum viable product. It's possible, is what they tell me. But I'm not confident to approaching an investor for angel investment or pre-seed funding. What is the best time to approach an investor? Is it only when I have at least one customer, or is it when the basic screens are ready? Slightly confused. Anything that we can add to this question right now?
I think if you put yourself in the shoes of the people who are going to take the risk and put the money in, that's where the answer lies. At the moment, it's a great idea. People who invest money are interested in great ideas which have some proof behind them to show that they succeed. I think so much money has been lost by people who get enthused, by people like me who, can talk until the cows come home about how wonderful everything is. And they go, that's a wonderful idea, I'll give you some money. And then I can't deliver because, I didn't actually go out and try it. So I think the answer is you should nail it. You should check to see what a few people, a beta group, if you like, think about your idea, get feedback from them, and then decide whether or not it's scalable. Because you can't go to an investor until you can show that, not just that it works, you've got to be able to show that it works and it's scalable.
If I can add to that, the investor is looking for a return on investment, and they want to have a very solid business plan and marketing plan, like we've said before. But when you look at your product, ideas are 10 a penny. There's 100 or 1,000 ideas out there for every person that can really develop an implementation plan that really works. So what we were saying earlier about getting your basics in place, focusing on delivery, that can only generally be shown if you're actually in business and you've got some track record. So it has to be a really stellar, standout, innovative idea to not require a business that already has traction for an investor.
Yeah.
There's another good question here, Steve. It says, hello, I'm a pre-launch startup and I'm trying to allocate budgets to the right areas. I am struggling to understand the appropriate amount to spend on marketing each month. How much should I roughly be spending on marketing every month? That's a good question.
As much as you possibly can.
If I can jump in here, there is a rule of thumb, tends to be about 20% of your margin, of your profit. But if you're an early stage company and you're saying you're pre-launch, some markets require you to invest far more in marketing that you make back in sales for a long period of time. That figure is relevant to your industry, and you'll only know that if you've done the proper market research and really know your industry. And that's the kind of thing that an investor will look for when they look at your business plan, when you're looking for money, to say, okay, do they know what it's going to take to break that market that they're in?
Excellent.
Okay. So the third of the 3 pillars of success is a strong back office. Now, there's a wonderful statement here that turnover is vanity, profit is sanity, but cash is king. Now, if you believe everything that Lord Alan Sugar of The Apprentice TV show, if you believe everything that he says, then you will believe that getting paid is the most important part of your business, because that's what he reckons. Now, he's a billionaire, so, maybe we should give him a little bit of credence. But I'm going to give you a couple of just quick examples. I did some work earlier this year for a small company that wasn't doing so well financially. Their cash flow was under threat. We had a look and we found out that they were making 47 mistakes. There was 12 of them in the office. They were making 47 mistakes a day on invoices, on communication with clients and suppliers. Once we found out that most of the mistakes or most of the impact on their cash flow was due to the fact that they didn't have good processes in place, then they set about, over the next 2 to 3 days, changing the processes, and they reduced the number of errors from 47 down to 5. And within 2 weeks, the owner could see a massive improvement in her cash flow. So it is absolutely critical to make sure that you do understand all of the aspects of running a business. And, if you look at the statistics, 62% of businesses never make a profit. That kind of tells you that a lot of your competitors don't understand business. So it's absolutely critical that when you're looking to start up a business, that you do understand the drivers of profitability and that you do understand the massive impact that cash flow has on your business. Business is a science. It's not an art. It's not a hobby. It's a real science, and there are a lot of moving parts. And so one of the other things that I've learned through bitter experience, your two most important advisors, as soon as you can possibly get them, and this will be an answer to the question that was asked a few minutes ago about how much should I be investing in marketing, and the earlier question, the two most important advisors that you can have right now is a really good marketing expert, as we've said, and a good accountant. Not just a good accountant who makes sure the numbers add up. There are tons of those in Dubai. I'm talking about a good accountant who understands business, who's commercial, who thinks commercially. There is a massive difference between just making sure all the numbers add up and being commercially astute. That's the kind of person that you want.
Related to this, there's a good question here, Steve, that says, how to deal with cash deficits? If customers are not paying on time, what is the best approach to deal with this? And even I can say myself, during my time of me running my own companies, especially in Dubai, I remember always considering that every payment will get delayed to me on 60, 90 to 120 days. And I wouldn't be counting on that cash flow to be getting to my business up until this 3 months or sometimes 4 months delayed. I think Dubai is a little bit known for this, for delayed payments, people getting delayed on, and I think you need to plan your business accordingly.
Exactly. That's a very, very good point. And the whole point about the statement here about cash is king. And as Alan Sugar said, getting paid is the most important part of your business. And so it's not something that you occasionally send out reminders to people who owe you money. The best people at collecting money are the relentless ones. You have to be relentless. You have to set up a framework of when you're going to contact people, different ways that you're going to contact them, but you just never let them kind of forget that you're around, And it doesn't always work. And it sometimes takes a long time, but if you don't do anything about it, believe me, they'll forget you faster than what they had to eat 3 weeks ago. So, cash deficit, take Lorenzo's point, which is that when you're planning your cash flow, don't expect that because you send out an invoice, you're going to get paid 2 days later. If you take your cash flow and then you say, well, that money's not coming in for 3 months, even though my invoice is 15 days, or whatever, or however you have to do it, you're introducing reality into the situation. And that's the most important thing. Okay.
If I can just add to that. They say that cash flow actually is what sinks most businesses. So having, knowing when that money's coming in and being able to rely on it is very important. Of course, if you run a business, then most of your costs are also 30, 60 days later as well. So you can schedule that to your advantage. But if you're really relying on particular sums of money coming in, first you should probably ask yourself, have I got enough cash in the bank that we can survive already if that money doesn't come in for a few months, let's say for 3 months? But also a lot of companies now, as business is getting very hard, are insisting on a percentage up front. Now that might lose you some work, but if that work that it lost you would be that bit of business that put you in the red in cash flow, maybe it's right that you didn't get that work, because not all work, not all clients are valuable to you.
Indeed. And this just keeps bringing back the point of constant analysis, almost daily analysis of where you are and what the future is looking like. And not relying on hope, because it doesn't work. So absolutely, cash flow. That's why having a good accountant and just learning the basics of bookkeeping, let's call it. so that you do understand how money flows, because your business is like a river, and money comes in at one end and it trickles down and it comes out the other, and at the other end, hopefully, there's profit.
I have a bit of a different question, Steve, for you. Let's see if you can help me answer this. Do you find people that become successful in business being better in marketing or dealing with money?
That's a good question. Money.
Okay.
I'd say money, because marketing is an input to creating the money, to creating the business, creating the flow of money. But the people who understand how money flows and how to make sure that it goes from the expenditure on marketing and sales and on people and operations and so on, the people who understand how to make all that work and coalesce into a strong business, you know, they're the ones who...
I'm a marketing guy, so I'll tell you, I'll hire an accountant to deal with that, you know. So, all right, I just wanted to bring that up
yeah.
on the chat.
Anyway, hey, just going back to what Nick said, 82% of business failures are caused by lack of cash flow. They run out of money. So, you know, for those of you who are listening, it's mission critical that you understand how money flows and how cash flow works. So, you know, that's one of the things that we help with in this 8-week course. You know, we don't just do all the jaunty stuff around marketing. We get down to the nitty gritty, as I call it, the stuff that you need to know. It's like Scotty on the USS, in Star Trek, USS Enterprise. Yeah. You know, it's like, I can't hold it together, Jim. It's going to blow. But he held it together because he knew exactly how the whole of that massive starship worked. And so that's what we'll be able to help you with. Roadmaps, timelines, business processes, the templates that you need, and the skills. And it's all done for you. So, you know, it's quite an interesting program. So there we are. There's the 3 pillars of success. We've talked about a strong product, strong marketing, and the strong back office, and deep understanding of you know, how businesses operate. So this is a line from a wonderful song by a group that most of the people on here won't even remember. It's called the Beatles. And I get by with a little help from my friends. For a lot of people, starting a business is quite lonely. So that's why we've set things up, not as an online course, but as a group, because with the social isolation that's now happening with COVID, people who've left offices are feeling really dislocated. And a lot of them are suffering from grief at the loss of the life that they once had when they were working with their friends that they can't see in the office. They don't have the coffee room chats to get together, you know, in the kitchen and a bit of a chat. And so particularly if they've then lost their job, they really feel kind of out on the outer. So the way that we've set this up is to give people an opportunity to form some better collaborative communities so that people start to help each other. Because, you know, a lot of people on the call on this webinar are thinking pretty hard about setting up a business. And it's a great deal easier if you're with a bunch of people who are doing it at the same time you are, which is why we're putting a group of 25 people together into each of the cohorts, if you like. And we don't want it to be any bigger than that. We'll have multiple groups rather than make a group 100 people and you don't get to meet everybody. So the idea with that kind of group is that there's a lot of social interaction, and you get to meet people online, and then perhaps even you meet them for coffee or whatever. And you find that, you know, you've got skills that are complementary to their skills. You need what they can do and they need what you can do. And all of a sudden you're building your own ecosystem. And that's a word I know that Nick loves to teach, ecosystems. But, you know, you're basically building something that's viable by having people that you've never met before being able to help you out with answers to questions, or just, you know, just getting together and supporting each other. And then we've got a larger group through our private Facebook group, where you come in a group of 25, and then what happens is you also get to join the larger group. So, you know, there might be a couple of hundred people in there if our course goes well. But then you've got a larger group of people that you can interact with and that you'll know what they do. And so it becomes like a mini resource center. The other thing is that with online interactions every week in the course, like this, but where everybody's up on the screen and so, you know, there's dialogue, these things really, really help people who are feeling a little bit lonely, that they're actually part of something really cool. So where we're at the moment, and I'm just conscious of the time, Lorenzo, so I'm just going to whip through this if that's okay, and then we'll take questions maybe at the end. We've got the first 4 weeks of the content prepared, and I'm going to take you through what's actually in it in a minute, and you'll see that. But then we want to get feedback from people. So to the point that you were making earlier, Nick, making sure that what you build and what you're marketing is actually what people want. And to do that, you've got to actually hear from them what they want. I think that's the point that you made, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think that everything stems from having the certainty that your product is required, your service is needed, that your differentiation really cuts through and connects with your clients. So that's everything flows from that. If you don't have those bits, you might as well pack up and go home now, because everyone else that you're competing against, at least 20 or 30% of those people in that space will have all that, and they'll be the ones who succeed.
Yeah. You know, and we're in a competitive market as well. The online and coaching course market is huge. It's going to be something like $325 billion by 2025. So, you know, we're not without our own competitors. And so what we want to make sure is that we are hearing from people who are interested in learning our materials, but then not only hear from them about their own issues, but what they want us to be able to provide them, because the best teachers are the ones who give you what you need to learn, as opposed to, you know, like being in school where the teacher had a set curriculum and they taught it to you whether you wanted to know it or not. And most of it just went in one ear, out the other, because it wasn't useful. So we want to make sure that that is not the case. So the first group, we're going to start that on the 8th of September. So that's in a week and a half's time. That gives us time to set up the groups and just make sure that we get everything ready. That this doesn't need to be rushed. What it needs to be is executed well. So just having a quick look at the curriculum. We take time. First thing is to define your why. Why do you want to set up a business? And sounds like an obvious question, but for a lot of people, it's not that obvious. So we ask you to really have a good hard look at why you want to put yourself through this. And then also, what is your product or service going to be, and how you have come to that conclusion and why you think that's a good idea. In the second week, we're looking at helping define the target market, which is another point that Nick made very strongly earlier, that you need to know exactly who you're marketing to, and you need to know what it is they're looking for. And then we've talked about research, so crushing the competition through research is week 3. Week 4 is client acquisition strategies, and Nick reeled off a number of ways that you find that out, whether it's psychographics or demographics or thermographics or I can't remember any of the graphics, geographics.
Oh, graphics.
graphics. So yeah, and then, you know, then you're starting to go into part of the back office, but some of the other business skills, moving people from being prospects to being paying clients, learning skills of negotiation, how to put great proposals together, what a cast iron contract looks like, how you deal with objections, you know. So those kind of things which are not marketing, they're more in the sales arena, I guess you would say, but they are critical business skills. And then also spending some time looking at pricing and payment terms, because a lot of people don't know how they should set the price for whatever it is that they're selling. And so it's a good idea to go through that and see that there are a variety of ways that you can price. You can price on an hourly basis, on a fixed rate, on a success basis, et cetera, et cetera. So you need to understand what all those are to make sure that you're using the right one for, you know, for your business. And then going back to the issue that we were talking about before, Lorenzo, about how do you get people to pay, then understanding what the variations are in terms of payment terms. Nick, I think you said people are now looking more to get 50% up front or whatever. We do. Mm-hmm. You know, we won't start the work until we get the 50% up front. So at least we know we've got that. And that is now becoming far more accepted because, you know, we're actually all in the same boats because we're both suppliers and customers. So we understand the point of view. And then week 7 is really getting into the back office, talking about cash and cash flow, getting a basic understanding of accounting, kind of records that you need, the kind of automated, fabulous software that's out there that will help you do a lot of this stuff. And also to make sure that people don't get seduced by the fact that, you know, it's all online now, so woohoo, I don't have to learn this stuff. No, it doesn't work like that. And then we spend the last week talking about collections and payment terms and figuring out how to make sure that you keep the business viable. And week 9, we celebrate. So, you know, it's pretty comprehensive, but it takes you through the various bits and pieces of things that you need to know if you are running a business. And the idea is to give people time to learn so we don't overwhelm people. We've put the materials together in a logical sequence, they're spaced apart. And with those live calls, it gives people an opportunity to revisit something maybe from a couple of weeks ago when they say, you know what, I know in week 4 we talked about yada, 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 but can you just go back? Yeah, sure. And we'll have a chat about it, okay? So some people are saying to me, you know, this is a really terrible time to start a business, COVID. So many people out there starting a business. Not a good time. Actually, that's not necessarily true. The market for entrepreneurs is growing exponentially. Okay, the way that organizations, going back to the point that that both Nick and Lorenzo made, organizations are reshaping themselves dramatically. Like they don't have thousands of employees. They expect to have literally hundreds of employees. Now they were going to get there in 10 years' time, but what COVID has done is taken 10 years and it's brought it right back to now. And so now we're having to deal with, and large companies are having to deal with the fact that they've got massive amount of real estate and they can't bring people into the offices because of the restrictions. So they're going to start making some pretty quick decisions. Look at the number of people that have been taken out of businesses you never in a million years thought would be laying staff off. Emirates, for example, you know, some of the banks. I mean, you know, the whole world has been turned on its head. Now, here's the thing. There are 50 ways to start a business badly, and there's one way, really, to start a business well, and that's been proven over thousands of years, literally. So what we're offering, I think, is a well-researched, carefully thought-through way of actually starting a business that makes it much more likely that you will actually end up with a profitable business, and will separate you from all those people who are starting businesses out of desperation and trying to save money by doing everything themselves, because it ain't going to work.
Steve, there's a good question here. Actually, somebody saying a lot of people said that COVID-19 was the best time to start a business while marketing, doing your marketing plans, building business plans, have enough time to think about these things. They're saying, what do you think?
Sorry, let me just make sure I understood the question. That because they were stuck at home, that was a really good time for them to be doing their marketing plans and their business plan? Yeah. So, yeah, I think, you know, if you're forced to stay at home, well, you know, you can only do the garden or wash the dishes or rearrange all the books in your bookshelf so many times. Yeah, why not? So,
yeah, if I can add to that, even if you don't think it's the right time, well, your job might not be there in September, October, November. If you've got a side hustle, if you've got an idea, a vision of something that can pay your salary for the rest of your life, why aren't you doing it? There's no better time. And if you're looking at the companies that were founded in recessions, they grew up in difficult circumstances and they become stress tested really early. They don't have any fat on them. They're very lean. They're very agile. If you look at big companies, they're like super tankers that have to turn. They have real estate, as Steve was saying. They have staff and all sorts of commitments. And as a small company with expertise, you can go in and plug gaps that big companies can't do. There's all sorts of new kind of ways of making money. So COVID actually is a fantastic time. We found from our clients that actually a lot of them dropped off when COVID hit. but then all of the clients who had some real substance to them have moved on to create new products, to create new businesses, and they value the relationship that we had with them from before. So you can guarantee that the people that actually have traction will still be having businesses and setting up new value that you can be a part of in this new reality.
100%, 100%. And what you need in order to be able to capture that opportunity is a strong, well-thought product, a very strong marketing plan and campaign around it, and a really strong back office. Those things don't change. Those things don't change. Successful businesses all have those three. It doesn't matter how big they are, they all have those three. So yes, if you've got a bit of time on your hands, like Nick says, get that marketing plan sorted. Come to us, we'll give you a template. Get that business plan sorted. Learn about cash flow. You know, we've got some great books that I can, I've got some great books that I can send you, 100 financial ratios, and you can learn everything that you need to know about how business actually operates, and then go out and do it. And because you're much better prepared than 99% of the rest of the people who are out there doing it, because you've got a towards strategy called, I'm going to go out and set up a highly profitable business. They've got an away from strategy called, I've lost my job. I need to do something to fill the gap. I don't know what I'm going to do. Oh, maybe I'll set up a business. That's 10 times less powerful than I know exactly what I'm doing. I know exactly who I'm going to be selling to, and I know how much money I'm going to make. So be part of that much, much smaller group.
Another thing that I've come across and I've seen from a lot of startups and entrepreneurs is that whenever somebody starts a new business and new ideas, many people fall into this trap of being too stuck with their own concept, with their own idea and how they want to implement this. And they don't go out enough to communicate this to potential partners, to potential clients, to test it out. Many times because of fear of thinking that somebody is going to copy this out. But even the little that they go out and communicate this, they're even so immersed in their own, you know, ways of wanting the way that they want to do it, that they're not open enough to adapt to what the market really needs. And I find that a lot of the very successful people are the ones that very fast are able to adapt, right? What is it that people really actually need? And I'm willing to adapt and give that back to the market instead of being so stuck with my own idea and this is what I want. It could do with style, with design, with the way that you want to do. But that's not what the market needs. And people get stuck with that notion.
You're absolutely right. And this actually comes down to a level of defensiveness, because for a lot of people, what they're really scared, if they go and share their idea with too many people, somebody's going to say, the emperor has no clothes. Somebody's going to say, you know, that's the dumbest idea I've heard for bloody ages. God, don't go and do that. And you go, oh, I've been working on this for 6 months. What am I going to do now? Well, what you should have done was get in a group of 25 people like you. You know, that's the benefit of being in a community where nobody's idea is sacred. And you're absolutely right. The people who run highly successful businesses, their ideas are not personal. They are things outside them. You know, their self-impression or their self-worth is not dictated by what their idea is. That's something that's over there. Their self-worth is their ability to move and pivot and go from here to here really fast.
The speed is essential, but if you've also seen the programs like Dragon's Den or Shark Tank, and you've got the people that have mortgaged their houses, invested their life savings in an idea, and the dragons look at them like they're idiots, they're fools, because they're so wrapped up, because they're wrapped up in their idea. And if you only ask friends, family, or yourself whether your idea is a good idea, then you will only generally get positive answers, unless it's the people, you know, you need to go to the people that don't have a stake, or conversely, make them have a stake. Take the ideas of the people who will invest some actual money in you, because then when their own money's on the line, you'll see how committed they are to their answer that you've got a good idea.
Yeah. My partner and I have a notice board in the study, and on the top of it is Ashby's Mad Ideas. So I have ideas all the time. I can't stop having great ideas. But we've now agreed that the best thing to do with those ideas is put them up on the Mad Ideas board and just leave them there. And after a while, I go back and have a look, and I think, you know what, that's probably not such a good idea after all. Or she tells me it isn't. And I go, yes, dear. So, you know, not every idea that you have is a great idea. But if you can separate yourself from the idea and then enable people to take a critical view of it and go back and do RAIDs, risk assessment, you know, risks, the other parts of that mnemonic, and looking at the SWOT analysis and constantly checking to make sure that your idea is a good idea and how can you prove it, and what could go wrong. You know, Edward de Bono's 6 hats, the black hat, you know, what could possibly go wrong with this? And when you get somebody who's really positive, it's very hard for them to switch and think, what could go wrong with this? But boy, I'll tell you, it's a really, really important part of what we do is to challenge. You know, we've got a bunch of 25 people in the room. We challenge what it is that they want to do. And then, you know, they'll find 24 other people in the room are also going to say to them, yeah, maybe, well, maybe if you did this and you added this and so on and so forth. And all of a sudden, your idea becomes a great idea because you've got input from people who care about you, number one. But number two, want to make sure that you're successful. And sometimes you have to, you know, just take it on the chin. There's a bit of hard news coming through. But that's the only way that you're going to be successful. Okay.
We've got another good question here, Steve. It says, I am considering starting a tech-based business and I'm struggling in getting market information on my target industry. Marketing firms who claim that have such research reports are charging thousands for access to such reports. I need to assess the size of the market. I mean, access to information is key for starting your business, correct?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to hand over to Nick on this one, because anytime anybody mentions technology, I think of golf ball typewriters that I saw in 1983 and thought, oh boy, this is it. That is the pinnacle of technology.
Well, technology is an interesting market for me. We have a company that's involved in it, but also market research. Well, as a marketeer, it's some of my bread and butter. If you can't afford those reports, which are $2,000, $3,000 a piece, there are other ways that you can find that information. Do you know somebody in that sector? Can you offer to buy them dinner and, you know, quiz them about their experiences? Can you look on Google and do Google alerts for whenever there's news about competitors in your space? Can you go to places, certainly in places like the UK, there's Companies House. Can you get a report on competitors' business turnovers? And if they're big companies, you know, what they'll often say what they consider are the major challenges in their market. Of course, obviously, recently, a lot of that will have changed now. But the news is awash with what's happening to industry right now. The old market reports, probably up until COVID, no longer apply in many markets. So if you're in one of the negatively affected markets, it's gone off a cliff. Who can know necessarily when tourism is going to scale back up to the heady heights? But if you're in a market too, such as delivery, which is experiencing a massive boom right now, and grocery sector, and anything where you're looking to deliver product direct to home, all of the old data is also irrelevant. So I think what you've got to try and do is look at trends and put particular stakes in the ground. But also your industry that you're in might be very similar to another industry. So if you're in, say, retail, or if you're in a section of retail like clothing, if you're in luxury clothing, what's happening in other luxury product categories? If you can look at the trends that are being reported, the commentary from experts in those sectors, you should be able to get enough trends to basically form an opinion of what's happening in the industry, but also look out for dissent, especially look for those things that contradict what you've just heard or what you've found, because then you can analyze a bit deeper the differences.
Okay. So just quickly going back to employee to entrepreneur, you know, I talked about joining a bigger Facebook group where you're going to be able to get the kind of honest feedback from people that you need. Virtual mentors like myself and a few other people that I've got lined up who can help in various aspects of running a business. And obviously a lot more templates and tools and business processes that we've developed over time and will continue to develop. Our motto is nobody gets left behind. Not sure at the moment about whether we're going to make membership of the Employee to Entrepreneur program a lifetime membership or a yearly membership. But certainly the first 100 that sign up will get the lifetime membership. And we'll, even if we change to a yearly membership at some later stage, you would still be grandfathered with that, that lifetime membership. So having a look at the total offering of the course, the online course, the mentoring, the amount of trial and error it prevents you from having to do and the cost associated with that, and being able to cut your learning time down quite significantly, we think that the course is probably worth, I'll just talk in dollars, you can see the dirhams there, but between $2,000 to $5,000 in terms of costs that you would incur overall. Whereas what we're looking at doing is starting out with a price of 2,929 dirhams, 2,929 dirhams. That's our start out price. However, due to the good graces of Creative Zone and the fact that you know, we've done some marvelous collaboration for this webinar tonight to be able to talk to a lot of interested people in a companion industry, which is what Creative Zone does, then we're offering the first 100 people who join a 50% reduction and bringing that down to 1,459 AED, so 397. And, you know, because life is the way life is at the moment, we have a payment plan as well over 6 months, which you'll find on the link that you can see there on your screen. And so you'll get another chance to hear me go on and on and on and on, but we'll also tell you a bit more about the course. And quite frankly, you know, I'm available after this call for anybody who wants to get in touch by WhatsApp or whatever. I like talking. I can talk to myself for ages, but I do prefer talking to other people. So please do take my phone number, and if you'd like to have a chat, if there's anything I can do to help you, if you're trying to decide whether or not you'd like to do E2E, as we call it, Employee to Entrepreneur, then give me a bell. I'm very, very happy to have a chat. So that's it. I haven't got anything else to say. I think if you're thinking of setting up a business, I strongly suggest you have a look at the way that we can help you, as I said, to cut the learning time in half and to reduce the time and error and the costs associated with that. Because the people who are putting the material together are very, very skilled at what they do. So thank you very much to everybody for listening. I appreciate that. So Lorenzo, thank you so much for the opportunity to talk to people. And Nick, for your very valuable contribution around marketing. And I hope people have got a lot out of this. So if there's any other questions, then you know, let's get into those. And while people are going to that link and being in the first 100 to sign up, so they get the fabulous Creator Zone discount.
Great, Steve.
Over to you, mine host, Lorenzo.
Thank you for that. And anybody else that has any questions, please put them here on the Q&A. We'll be happy to address those. And I think the offer that you have put forward, Steve, is very reasonable. It's a very good offer. It's for a very good value for the money. So we encourage anybody to take part of this. And from our side at Creative Zone, all we do is just try to help out all the people that we work with, all the startups, the entrepreneurs, that they come through to us. We are ready to help you in any way, from setting up your business to giving you advice on how to successfully launch your business and be successful in your journey. Let's see if we have any other questions. People are asking if we are going to be sharing the slides. I think after this, tomorrow we can send an email, Steve and Nick, to everybody that attended. There were about 300 people that registered. We can send them the full presentation, the video of this webinar. We will be putting it online. And I invite everybody to take the conversation online and to share our thoughts on social media, and to keep on staying in touch on this topic and see how else we can continue helping each other.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you both very much. And as we say in New Zealand, I'll catch you later, mate.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Lorenzo.
Thank you, Nick.
Cheers,
Thank
guys.
you all.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.